And in this garden we have Eve and Adam. We have this marvelous Eve who is not a victim. She is a powerful, beautiful woman with this big serpent all around her who's sort of being subdued. It's very, very exciting. And I wish everybody could see the actual detail in the work, because they're three-dimensional, they're not flat.
It was Eve's fault, right? Somebody always has to bear the burden. So with that piece, it was very much about letting her evolve into now not being the victim. Now she's full of life and she is the garden, and which is really true for women. You know, there is that sense of bearing life and being life. She is brilliant and wonderful and exciting and nurturing and alive, and she is, you know, she is pregnant.
And then Adam is sort of a quieter guy. He's done in black. It's a beautiful work too, but he's sort of feminized in a way. He has that beautiful tapestry on his body. He's not a great heroic figure. He's not nearly as heroic here as Eve.
He's also a part of the animals, and they are a part of him, because that's all, we all share that same kind of life structure and sense of being. And it was interesting because Anne did ask me that he had been feminized. And I don't think that was ever intentional. Again, he's a positive Adam, and I never saw him as being a male who had somehow caused, you know, anything. It was more about him being the beginning, the origin, the belonging, the together, the connectedness of that first human Adam, and all of the things that are rich and wonderful about the natural world.
Albert Einstein. But he talked about when you believe that nature and science are separate, that becomes a prison, and it's a real important task for us to break loose of that prison. And Sheryl's doing this in this exhibit.
We were better connected to the natural world, the wild world, a long time ago. Then our civilization, which we consider becoming civilized, has become about changing the hierarchy of the earth, the wild thing, to our control of things. So we don't have the same relationship. And in that relationship, we start to have less of an appreciation and an understanding that we are dependent upon that world to support us. And we're really seeing that now with what's happening with our environment, with water, with climate, with air. And so part of that going back to the garden, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's historical, it's scientific. We're looking for knowledge, we're looking for understanding, and we have to make change. We have to go forward by going back, I think. Then Joan of Arc, which is a piece that is about the strength of women and represents and is the metaphor for many women who have made significant contributions to our world. And that's what that piece is intended to be. And I worked on that piece with my daughter, who is pursuing an honors degree in art history at university. And she, with myself, reached out to women to have them suggest names to us, people that they knew, past, living, and then we created small bios because we didn't want to just name the women, we wanted people to know what their contribution was. And so we made small bios, and so that piece is still really in process because we want that to continue and continue and continue until that piece is filled up with every woman that someone could think of that they felt had made a positive contribution to the world. So that piece will go on for a long time, we hope. But Joan of Arc was the representative of that because she was strong, she was a warrior, but she also had a spiritual side. She had to stand up for a lot in her pursuit of saving France. My favorite piece in the exhibition is the Teresa piece, which again is about the little flower as a saint, and sort of that innocence, that goodness, kindness, and what she had to endure as her life, but still maintain that kind of faith and simplicity. And I think for a lot of women, that's what women go through. They carry a lot based on family, relationships, taking care of, nurturing, protecting, and still give even when they feel like they don't have any more to give. She's probably the closest to my feeling about myself. The cloth for me is second skin. I see all of that as skin. You know, I don't think of it as clothing. I really think of it as being the body. And so using the materials that way, the idea of hand stitching, everything is hand stitched, that process of meditative. You know, I grew up as a Catholic, you know, the rosary, that repetitive sort of meditative knotting, tying, binding, mending, all of those things are part of the process. Like if I have to use a piece of fur of some kind that's real fur, which I don't do very often, but I only use something that was a long time ago used in another purpose. And it also has this origin that came from nature, and so that's a really important part of the actual materials that I use. Scale is important to me. I've tried to work smaller, and if it goes smaller, then it doesn't have that same character of being the real thing, you know, that authenticity of being the size of a person, the size of an animal, and the relationships that are established between those things.
You could also talk about them even as scrolls, especially the one about breathe, of the dove flying down into the person's mouth. Is it a scroll? Is it sculpture? Is it paint? Is it collage? And I think it's all of that. I think it's painting with collage.
So like the wall pieces, this is a piece that I'm starting that's about celestial and the issue of connection again, a complete connection between the earth and the heavens. And so I'm thinking about the animals as the earth. Then this human form rises up out of that. So she's connected to the earth, and she's also part of the sky, the heavens. And so she, I think, is going to be holding the full moon. These will become phases of the moon as cycle, representing the cycle. And I think she's holding the full moon. I don't know. The hands will be dimensional, and the face will actually be dimensional when it's done. And then I intend to have constellations up here. I think using the Dürer representation of constellations, and her hair will, I think, become part of that linear work. So that will probably be part of what's happening, so that she again is embedded in both the earth and the heavens. Ursus Major will again appear definitely as one of the constellations, as a connection, and also Leo definitely will appear as one of the constellations. I'm not as concerned that others may not be represented here. The base of all of this is a blue rhino. So things that could be extinct, going extinct, things that are not necessarily extinct, but we have to think about that whole world that's evolving. And so we have to be conscious of this while we're also, you know, entranced with this.
I've seen bits of her work at Ringling College, but I had not seen a show that was so centered on a certain idea. that she is bringing into this garden, this garden of nature mixed with science and reason all together in these fabric collages, sculptures with also fabric collage, just remarkably beautiful.